Greetings to everyone and all our viewers across the world. My name is Sally Katee. I am an access and benefit sharing specialist based in Nairobi, Kenya. I am also the Ethics, Legal, Social Issues Subcommittee Chair of the African Biogenomic Project. And today we're going to be unpacking the evolution of genomics in Africa from a JEDI perspective. So we're going to be talking about this in a three-part presentation where we're going to look at the past as an introduction, and then we are going to discuss the present and the current challenges that we have so that we can get a feel of where we are as a continent. And then we're going to discuss our future goals so that we can also understand where we're headed. Now, there is an undeniably large amount of genetic resources in Africa. Actually, Africa holds 8 out of the 34 hotspots of biodiversity in the world. This automatically means that there is numerous opportunities for exploration and utilization. On the other hand, it also means that there are numerous JEDI and outside issues that need to be dealt with. For the longest time, whenever people thought of Africa, the first things they would think about would be poverty, underdevelopment, primitiveness, and diseases. Africa was always favored as a destination for helicopter research and ethical dumping. Unfortunately, scientists would just come in, collect the samples, and fly out, and then go and work on the samples, sequence them, have publications out, and make great discoveries. And unfortunately, there was very little regard for development and growth. And as a result, we were forced to lag behind. Fortunately, times are now changing, we are catching up, and we are taking big strides towards leading the African genomics narrative. As we talk about issues like where we are right now, most of the times people tend to look at the deficit of things. People tend to look at what we don't have or what we've not achieved. And today, I would like to take the narrative to a different direction, and I would want us to look at some of the notable achievements that we have been able to have as a continent. From a technical aspect, some of the things we can see is an upscale in sequencing facilities. We now have many sequencing facilities coming up across the country, but because that's not my area of expertise, I will focus on the LC and JEDI related issues. So we have had improvements in turnaround time where sample collection and permits approval is taking less time than it was before. Prior informed consent, benefit sharing, indigenous community engagement conversations are now actively taking place. Something that's very exciting and a favorite for me is there is inclusion of women in the genomics and biodiversity space. There has also been cohesion and cooperation with governments, stakeholders, providers, and users as we are now discussing policies that are currently in place and how they directly affect us. There has also been the development of multilingual publications to allow people across the continent to have an in-depth understanding of the scope of research projects. Unfortunately, as we talk about our wins, we cannot overlook the losses. And the one I would like to focus on right now is how we have seen many organizations and networks on African genomics and biodiversity overlooking issues that revolve around compliance and breaking national and international regulations because they want to fast track their projects and they want to move faster and have quicker turnarounds with the various work that they're doing. Unfortunately, this is a very sad state of affairs because I personally believe that we should be promoting compliance outside and inside, our research project. So as we look at what our goals are, one of the things that we need to consider is the fact that we must include more people with relevant skills in the projects that we're currently doing, because the fact of the matter is Africa has a very vast talent base, and more often than not, we find ourselves in situations where we are stranded when experts from developed countries come to visit and they give training on certain things, and we end up not really paying attention, or probably, not being able to move forward because a lot of us don't have the training. So as a continent, we need to ask ourselves, how do we train, you know, the people around us? How do we give them the relevant skills? How do we maximize on the opportunities and the capital that is already around and within us? There is a need for continued dialogue and connection forums. We need to be in a position to discuss the group position of Africa. We need to be able to discuss the code of conduct of the scientists. We need to be able to discuss compliance measures. We also need to be able to discuss the ethical standards that we hold as a continent. And this is where projects like the Africa Biogenome Project come in, where people can exchange and interact and collaborate and grow and learn from one another. Now, one of my last recommendations actually would be scientists must be willing to participate in international negotiations. Why? We have issues like digital sequencing information that is a very controversial topic right now. We are all waiting for COP15 to come and give more clarity on that. We are waiting for the post 2020 global biodiversity framework to come and give more clarity on the issue. And some of the things that we need to be more focused towards as a continent would be to develop policies that are also science based. We need to have policies that can inform on how the science is practically, and this is where the scientists come in. Scientists can be able to advise their governments on how policies can be structured in a way that protect but also do not inconvenience them. One of the things we also need to be considering as a continent is how to align the industry with the universities. Universities and the industries must work in unison. And I give an example of Africa BP. Africa BP has institutional partners, we have corporate partners, and we also have associate project partners. Theory and practice must align, and this is how it is able to align. Lastly, one of the things I would like to discuss is how we need to align research objectives with overall continental growth and sustainability of our objectives. We need to be able to ask ourselves questions as we carry out our research projects. How does this improve food security in Africa? How does this improve economic development in Africa? So as we discuss our goals, these are some of the things that we need to be considering. In conclusion, Africans must stop internal piracy in the name of collaboration and resource mobilization. We need to be preaching ethics from the conception of our projects to completion. We must be the ones who are driving ethical research across the continent. One of the things we must also continue to do is to review our progress as a continent, continuously understanding the challenges that we face at the various levels, because the challenges that we had 5 years ago are not the challenges that we have right now, and the challenges that we're going to have 5 years from now are still going to be different than what we're dealing with right now. We must also continue to work with the goal that Africa is not only going to be a provider of genetic resources, but we will soon be involved in the discovery and the patent process. And the exciting thing is this is something that's already begun. So with that, I would like to say thank you for your time, and I hope that we can continue having this kind of conversations.